this is Dr. Forth, and today's video presentation is about AI and its use in education. AI is really popular now. Of course, the AI stands for artificial intelligence. And I have to think about what does that mean? It's not really thinking or intelligence in the way that we've come to understand it. AI includes all kinds of intelligent machines, machine learning, and the one that is most common now from most of these companies that are offering AI services, something called large language models. And so we're going to start out talking about AI and its training and how it actually works, some of the concerns about the development of AI, and also we're going to talk about AI and its use in education, some great ideas for how you might use AI and some concerns and things to avoid. Okay, so let's get right to the concept of AI and the training of AI. So, what does that mean? As I said, it's not really learning or intelligence in the same way that we understand it. What's actually happening is you feed a whole bunch of data into the system during the training process. This is going to be written material. Sometimes they use visual representations or audio because, of course, there are systems with AI that can generate pictures and music and so forth. And when you feed in all of this data, eventually the AI learns to recognize patterns and relationships. And so the generative portion of that is where the AI can recognize and predict sequences of words or perhaps visual or auditory materials based on all of the information that it was exposed to during the training. And in fact, I recently saw an article about a new AI actor that's developed by a Dutch firm. This is actually provoking some interesting queries from talent agencies. Of course, that would be a great savings to have these actors, but it also is provoking, understandably, anger from actual actors because, of course, the training process to develop this AI required exposure to lots of acting by individuals. And so that's really their intellectual property, and it's not being compensated for. Some of the companies are actually scaling back their investments. There's some layoffs in the field because of concern about the profitability. And specifically, how are they going to become profitable sooner? Now, AI field is still hot, 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 and there's a lot of interest in that and developing it, but they are in fact propping up the AI business. All of those programs that offer free AI, or you get so many AI interactions for free, yeah, that's eventually going to go away because they do need to cover their costs and make their money. They're talking about this as the AI bubble, meaning there's all of this investment and plans for future profitability. But if that doesn't materialize sooner, there's going to be some adjustments in the marketplace. These AI developments do require a whole lot of resources. One thing I didn't realize, of course, everybody knows about the power consumption and the pollution associated with power consumption, but I didn't know that it uses so much water because all of those devices have to have cooling. So that's another concern, and that is driving up power costs for consumers. Sam Altman and his partners actually mentioned in an interview that the next wave of data centers that are created are going to consume more power than New York City and San Diego combined. It's slightly horrifying. That was in Fortune magazine in September of 2025. There's also concerns about the ethics of using other individuals' work, uh, artists and authors and creators, and it's not attributed properly. They don't get credit and they don't get paid for it. This again goes into the training part. And AI generated logos may pose a problem because you cannot trademark any material that uses stock media. Well, the AI actually has to be generated after being trained on stock media. So that's something where probably the legal profession's going to have to catch up on that and weigh in. You might have heard the term dead internet. And what this really refers to is the idea that you have a whole bunch of bots just talking to each other with minimal human interaction. We already see a little bit of this in the hiring and job application area. For a while now, job seekers have been aware that applications are being screened by AI. Well, now there's all kinds of websites and programs that are designed to help you make your application more appealing to these AI screening processes. And they have started doing initial interviews with AI bots. So be prepared for that if you're getting ready to do some job applications. Sometimes the qualified candidates get passed over by the AI screening processes. And there are some lawsuits going forward about this, trying to address that concern. So, how can this actually help with studying? And there are a lot of great ways that you can use AI in your studying. It's wonderful at organizing notes. You can actually feed in your notes and put together outlines using AI. Another thing, I just read recently an article about how AI can bring historical figures or fictional characters to life. So you could actually instruct the AI to portray a particular character, either from a book or an actual historical figure. Remember that it has access to vast databases about all of the literature or actual historical documents. And so then the AI can portray those figures and you can interact with them. I thought that was a brilliant application. You can create study guides for yourself. Often the AI will be familiar with your textbook, and you can also share the PowerPoints and so forth and your notes, and then it can create study guides. AI can make sample tests for you. It can do mind mapping and creating note cards. You can also create interactive games to help you learn the materials. So those are some great ways to use it. What about creating papers or preparing projects? Well, you can create an organizational framework for your paper or project. You can also find online resources, much like using an index such as PubMed and so forth, only have the AI search. Just be very careful because AI can hallucinate. So you want to make sure that any of the sources that it actually finds for you really exist. And also be mindful of the faculty requirements for what kind of resources are acceptable. So if it's peer reviewed only or only from certain journals, you definitely want to put those parameters in so that you don't end up with inappropriate resources. Again, I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to make sure that the resources actually exist. Deloitte just had to issue a retraction. I believe it was a report that they had given to their creditors Well, the AI actually fabricated some references, and I've heard cases of attorneys who presented briefings with fabricated cases and that were generated by the AI. So you definitely don't want to find yourself embarrassed by that. So make sure all of the sources are genuine. You can use the AI to proofread and suggest revisions, but you want to be careful how you do it. You definitely do not want to just feed your paper or project into the AI and just go with the proofreading and revisions. Also, AI detecting tools are getting better every day. Don't let the AI actually touch your real paper file that you're going to submit. What I would do would be submit that to the AI for suggestions and then manually implement yourself whatever revisions and corrections you think are appropriate, because that way it doesn't look like you actually generated your paper or project using AI. There's concern about using generative AI from the student perspective because it's pretty easy to tell. My students sometimes try to do that, particularly with discussion posts. Here's what happens. I get a whole bunch of posts that look almost exactly the same, and they have the exact same wrong information because the AI is drawing on the same data set, making the same mistake on everybody's individual post. So even without the AI detection tools, you can tell a lot of times what is generated by AI. So you'll definitely want to keep that in mind and try and stick to ethical and appropriate use for the AI. And remember what I said about the AI bubble eventually bursting. That means they're going to start charging probably fairly substantial fees for the AI tools eventually. So you wouldn't want to become dependent on that. Keep that in mind as you go through.